This video is made at a time of a financial crisis in our country and financial crises in many homes, and also hard times for us as a church. And the video is made in response to that. And the question we're going to answer in this video is, how can we help each other at this time? Hello, my name is John and I'm one of the ministers here at Trinity Methodist Church, and this is the first of 3 videos that are coming to you for the purpose of answering this question of how can we help you at this time and how you can also be helpful. Let me unpack some of the specifics of this crisis. At the time of the making of this video, it's just been 3 weeks since we heard that South Africa's GDP dropped by 3.2%, signaling a real financial crisis in our country. Many homes are also really struggling to make ends meet. Many people are struggling with debt that has got out of control. And within the homes, within the marriages, financial struggles is putting those relationships under enormous strain, and in some instances actually threatening the very marriage. For us as a church as well, our income is no longer meeting our expenditure, and we really have a big problem on our hands. And so these videos have been made to try and address this problem at this time for us. I also want to say to you, if you have a need for someone to meet with you personally about the financial struggle you are in, the crisis, the dilemma you might be in, we have someone who can help, someone who is passionate about this ministry, very experienced in financial management, someone who has served at an executive level of our church and would love to help you. That person can be contacted, the meeting can be set up through our pastoral care office, so please just contact Angela Vessels, our pastoral care pastor, to set that up for you. I'm going to unpack John Wesley and his teachings in this. I'm going to unpack him. He taught that money is God's provision for us for all of our needs. So when we're seeking biblical, scriptural advice on money, we are seeking something that's not just about giving to the church. We're actually seeking guidance and receive guidance. And the Bible is written for this purpose, that we may be faithful in the whole of our spending of money, the whole of our gaining of resources, the whole use of our possessions. And so we're going to go into this saying, what does it mean to be faithful in both secular aspects of our lives, if you want to call it that, and our religious aspects of our lives? John Wesley has a wonderful way of putting these spiritual truths into memorable sayings. The first memorable saying I want to focus on is gain all you can. Gain all you can. Yes, John Wesley encourages us to earn as much as we can. He says, do this without damaging your own health, without betraying your neighbor, and obviously you must be able to do it in good conscience. But indeed, earn all you can. Earn all you can through hard work. Earn all you can through smart work. He encourages us to learn from our mistakes so that we do better today. What we did yesterday, maybe not as well, that we keep improving as we move forward. John Wesley also taught us to value honesty and way in which honest work is good for business. In all of this, John Wesley was really giving us practical advice to, in a modern way, put into practice Jesus' teaching of the parable of the talents, which is Matthew 25, verse 14 to 30. So John Wesley's next memorable line is, save all you can. He says, now that you've gained all of this resource, don't waste it on on wasteful spending. Don't throw it into the sea, he said. So be careful with your spending. Save as much of your money as possible. So he gives guidance on how to be careful with our spending. He says, be careful about spending money on fine food and drink. Be careful on status symbols, wasting resources on status symbols. Be careful of spending money on decorations that are just show off. Be careful of how you spend money on clothing and on entertainment. He even says, be careful of how you spend your money on your children. Yes, we need to provide for their needs, but don't throw money at them in such a way that it feeds into vanity, it feeds into pride, it feeds into pretentiousness, and ultimately actually leads them into temptation. And so in this way, John Wesley is encouraging us to modesty and simplicity in our life and in our spending. We do also come to realize, and he helps us in this, that sometimes we are using money to make up for something that's lacking in our lives. And of course, as Christians, if we have a very real connection with God, we don't have something lacking. We have abundant life, and we don't need to be spending to be making up for a lack. In all of this, John Wesley is helping us put into practice in modern ways what is in Scripture, and specifically, if I can refer to it, Paul's writing to Timothy. It's found in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 to 8, where Paul says, there is great gain in godliness combined with contentment, for we brought nothing into this world, and we will take nothing out of this world. If we have food and clothing, Paul says we will be content with these. Wesley's third statement is, give all you can. Give all you can. He reminds us firstly that when God put us in this world, God put us into this world not as an owner of goods, but as a steward or caretaker of goods, and that we should not behave as owners, making decisions as if we think this belongs to me, I can decide what to do with it, how I want to do with it. No, if we did that, we would alienate God from what is ultimately God's ownership. So we are stewards and need to deal with our money and possessions according to God's guidance. So what John Wesley does is he helps us with priorities in our spending. And the first priority is actually yourself. How may you modestly and responsibly supply your own needs? That needs to be done first. The second is your household, in other words, your family. How can you modestly and responsibly supply the needs of those who are dependent on you? The third is the household of faith, your family of faith. This is the church. It is important that we are using our resources that we have gained to meet the needs of the church, our spending, as it were, on the church. That's very, very important. And then the fourth is all humanity, but of course a particular emphasis on the poor. Jesus taught us to be caring for the poor, and John Wesley shows that to be a Christian means to care for the poor. And so we need to, as a fourth priority, make our resources available, our spending available for the needs of those who are in particular economic difficulty. In this way, John Wesley then says, you are giving to God the things that are God's, which is the Matthew 22 verse 21 principle. So as we come to the end of this first video, I want to remind you that if you need particular help with your own personal situation, we have somebody who can advise you. Just contact our pastoral care office and they will put you in contact with that person. Perhaps a good place to end would be on giving an example of how John Wesley put all of this into practice himself. When he started work, he earned £30 a month. He needed 28 to live, so he gave £2 away. Later on, he was earning £60 a month, and then he gave £32 away because he just needed 28 to live. He became a published author, and there were times when he was earning a very large amount. There was one year where he was able to give £1,400 away, giving all he could. He did this through his brethren, the poor. He called them the poor his brethren. John Wesley was content with a simple lifestyle. It freed him up to be generous, and many, the church, the poor, society at large, were blessed by that. I really hope that his wisdom helps us at this time, which is a challenging time for us. God bless you.